Two members of the United States Supreme Court still want to allow ghost guns created at home from kits without serial numbers to be used to commit crimes in America. And the 7 others on the United States Supreme Court think that's a terrible idea, siding with the Biden administration's position that if you're buying a kit to make a gun at home, it should be registered with a serial number, and you should be getting a background check. Having seen a proliferation of ghost guns, more than 10,000 of them used in 2022 and 2023 to commit crimes alone. I'm Michael Popok. We got breaking news at the United States Supreme Court level in a rare show of unity. 7, at least, of the Supreme Court justices sided and got behind Justice Gorsuch in writing the majority opinion, which upheld the ATF, the Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives Bureau's interpretation under the Biden administration that the Gun Control Act of 1968, passed in the wake of the Martin Luther King Jr. assassination and that of Robert F. Kennedy, that would apply, including its background check and its requirement for serial numbers and the rest, to ghost guns, kits you buy to build your gun at home, or in this case, 3D print your gun at home in many circumstances. The question here was an arcane one, but it's what the case turned on, whether the Gun Control Act, as applied to these types of kits you can buy from gun manufacturers effectively to do your own gunsmithing at home, whether it was facially invalid as applied to these guns and these gun kits. The answer was no. It doesn't mean that by kit, depending upon the type of kit, could there be an argument that it comes out from under the Gun Control Act? Yes, but in general, the Supreme Court has ruled that they want to see ghost guns registered, serial number, background check for their use, and as they enter America and are used in crimes. I'll cover it here on the MeidasTouch Network and on Legal AF. An interesting grouping here, not in the dissent. Alito and Thomas once again find a way to stand for the death and destruction in America. No surprise with either. They both sided. Thomas wrote the decision 2 or 3 years ago, the Braun versus New York rifle, in which it expanded the definition of the Second Amendment to give everybody a personal right to bear arms with little or no regulation. Forget concealed weapons permits, forget training, forget background checks, forget it all violated unless Alito and the people that joined with him there, and there was a majority, unless they found an analog, an historical precedent back in the old-timey times of the 1800s to match the regulation now, all regulations are out. Despite school shootings, tens of thousands of people killed every year in America from school shootings, from shootings and school shootings and things like that. So we knew before the ruling even came out where Alito and Thomas came out. And they wrote separate dissents saying effectively that the Gun Control Act only applies to assembled weapons, the receiver and the frame put together in a gun. When it's only together and can be fired, is it a weapon that can be controlled by the statute, and that the Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms Bureau interpretation was unreasonably and invalid. Fortunately, that's not the majority decision. I found it compelling when you look at I'm going to read to you from certain aspects of it, but when you look at what we're talking about, I want to show you a picture. This is reproduced in the actual decision. At the top is an actual firearm. At the bottom is what gets sent to somebody that ordered one of these kits. The only difference, you see those little red circles? You had to remove some plastic tabs at the top and drill a hole, insert a screw, and you can fire away. Same thing here in this picture. First picture, by the way, was on page 18. This one on page 9, similarly, and Gorsuch included these on purpose to show the top is the parts that show up when you order this kit. The bottom is what it looks like when you're done. You see, even here, you've got the magazine for the bullets at the bottom here, right? And so you see what we're talking about. We're talking about gun kits. Here's how Gorsuch framed it, joined by the other 7. Now, a couple of the 7 filed their own concurrences basically to attack Alito and Thomas, but joined in the decision in full. So we have fully 7 people of the Supreme Court, 7-2, behind this Biden era regulation. Here's how Gorsuch put it on page 1. Shortly after the assassination of Senator Robert F. Kennedy, that's our health department head's father, and because he's RFK Jr., and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. stunned the nation, Congress adopted the Gun Control Act of 1968. Existing gun control measures, Congress found, allowed criminals to acquire largely untraceable guns too easily. In response, Congress adopted a number of new mandates. As a result, many of those now engaged in importing, manufacturing, or dealing in firearms must obtain federal licenses, keep records of their sales, and conduct background checks before transferring firearms to private buyers. And the Supreme Court, even under their definition and expansion of the Second Amendment, has been okay with that. So I went to my 40th high school reunion recently, and while many of my classmates were excited about retiring or have retired, well, I brought my infant daughter to the reunion, and I won the youngest child contest hands down. But that means that when most people's working is winding down to match their body's energy levels, I need to ramp up to keep up with my baby daughter. I believe one of the best aging breakthroughs of the last decade is Qualia Senolytic, and here's why. Qualia Senolytic is at the frontier of what is currently possible in the science of human aging. Senolytics are a science field revolutionizing human aging. A big culprit behind that middle-aged feeling can be senescent cells, aka zombie cells that linger in your body after their useful function, wasting your energy and resources. Let me break it down. The accumulation of zombie cells can lead to less energy, slower workout recovery, joint discomfort, and basically, well, feeling old. Qualia Senolytic is a groundbreaking, clinically tested supplement with 9 vegan plant-derived compounds that help your body naturally eliminate senescent cells, helping you feel years younger in just months. Here's how it works. You take it just 2 days a month, helping your body naturally eliminate zombie cells to age better at the cellular level. And Qualia's breakthrough formulation is vegan, non-GMO, and tested by leading scientists. Since taking Qualia Senolytic, I felt like I've turned back the clock. I got higher energy, less soreness after exercise, and a big boost in productivity. It's made me feel more youthful and energized as I have the energy level to nurture my baby daughter the right way. Experience the science of feeling younger. Go to qualialife.com/legalaf for up to 50% off your purchase and use code legalaf for an additional 15%. That's qualialife.com/legalaf for an extra 15% off your purchase. Your older self will thank you. And thanks to Qualia for sponsoring this episode. On page 2, the court under Gorsuch continues. These mandates serve at least 2 ends. The background check requirement seeks to keep guns out of the hands of criminals. Sounds like a good idea. Again, Alito and Thomas dissent. The licensing, record-keeping, and serialization requirements, meanwhile, aim to assist law enforcement authorities to investigate serious crime. Gorsuch also noted of the proliferation of these guns in his opening, where we went from 1,000 10 years ago ghost guns to 10,000 a year being used during crimes. Gorsuch continues, the act mandates apply to firearms, and the law defines that term broadly. Under a firearm, it includes any weapon, including a starter gun, which will or is designed to or may readily be converted to expel a projectile. Well, that's Gorsuch's point. This is a kit that can readily be converted like a starter pistol into something that can fire a projectile. Clip the little plastic blocks, add a screw. Your gun works off the kit. Thanks to this generous definition, the act has long been understood to reach everything from run-of-the-mill rifles to novelty umbrella guns. Recent years have witnessed a profound change in how guns are made and sold. When Congress adopted the act in 1968, the milling equipment, materials needed, and designs were far too expensive for individuals to make firearms practically or reliably on their own. But with the introduction of new technologies like 3D printing and reinforced polymers, that is no longer true. Today, companies are able to make and sell weapon parts, kits that individuals can assemble into functional firearms in their own homes. Page 3. These kits are widely available, Gorsuch continues, both in how complete they come and how much work is required to finish them. In other words, some home gunsmithers, they want to do it. It's like a puzzle. They want all the parts, nothing assembled. They'll do it themselves. Okay. Others are like, no, I want to avoid serial numbers and I want to have a ghost gun. You know what I mean? So just send me as much of it assembled as you possibly can. Just maybe a couple of plastic locks, maybe it misses a screw, and I'll put it together. It's like when you order from Wayfair or from for some furniture manufacturing. Do you want the one where you just need to screw in the legs and you can sit down, or do you want the one that comes in 1,000 parts with some sort of Chinese converted into English set of instructions? You know where I'm going with that. At the other end, the judge said, some kits contain all the components necessary for a complete pistol and can be completed in perhaps a half an hour using commonly available tools. And that's his point. It depends on the kit, but it's not going to render the regulation as interpreted by the Bureau to be facially invalid. The justice continues. The upshot? Police departments around the nation have confronted an explosion of crimes involving these ghost guns. By 2021, that number jumped to more than 19,000 from 1,000. So it's not even 10,000. 19,000 guns were used in 2020 that were ghost guns. Efforts to trace the ownership of these weapons the government represents has proven almost entirely futile. This is a good decision, even as MAGA would like to say that Biden proposed it. How Alito and Thomas can rule otherwise with the mayhem and destruction on the streets of America is beyond me. They get so esoteric and so caught up. Alito, with his argument, is to send, well, there's another thing about machine guns. And they didn't even argue facial invalidity, some, highfalutin academic analysis in their brief. So why are we? And I don't think you can reconcile these two things. And it's going to be very hard. What's very hard about making a kit manufacturer subject to the same regulations as a completed gun manufacturer when the thing he's selling can be easily converted within seconds, minutes, or half an hour into something with lethality? I don't really get it, other than they don't care about the American people. They're protected by federal marshals. They may or may not wear bulletproof vests. They get federal protection. They live in an ivory tower, hermetically sealed from the public. When was the last time they went out for a pizza and a beer? When was the last time they walked freely around the streets? Not on for Thomas's sake and Alito's sake, not on $1 million junket with paid endorsers and paid sponsors who put money in their pocket by way of fancy trips with bodyguards on private planes. When was the last time they traveled commercial? When was the last time they went on a train or a subway or a bus? Probably not in the last 20 years. We in America have to deal with the streets and criminality. I want to have ghost guns have a serial number and a background check regarded before my neighbor assembles a gun and then uses it against somebody in a peak of anger or in a school shooting or a road rage or a crime, or they lose the gun and it gets used by somebody in a crime. This is a good thing. I'm glad to see at least 7 reasonably sensible people got together on the court, or at least 4 led by Gorsuch, joined the 3 of the Democratic wing of the Supreme Court, and Ketanji Brown Jackson, Sotomayor, and Kagan. That's what happened. And we'll continue to follow it all right here on the MeidasTouch Network and on Legal AF. Till my next report, I'm Michael Popok. In collaboration with the MeidasTouch Network, we just launched the Legal AF YouTube channel. Help us build this pro-democracy channel where I'll be curating the top stories at the intersection of law and politics. Go to YouTube now and free subscribe at Legal AF MTN. That's at Legal AF MTN.